Hello there Pixies, welcome back to my channel. In this series I have been reading my old Harry Potter fanfiction that I have been writing, well, I wrote it when I was 17. We're going to take a look at how bad the writing was back then. So don't judge me, my writing is a little bit better now, not by much, I'm not bragging. But this is going to be chapter 6 of my fanfiction, Severed Ties. It is a Marauders era fanfiction, and if you want to watch the entire series, you're welcome to. It is up here. Without further ado, let's get into chapter 6, which is called Premonitions. Lockheed was taken straight to St. Mungo's hospital for magical maladies and injuries, in case of any damage done to her. The whole school was completely shook up by what they'd witnessed. Lily was in tears as the third years were ushered back to their common rooms until further notice. The atmosphere could have been sliced with a severing charm. It was horrible. She was lying there just squirming. Why would anyone want to do that? Lily sobbed into Imelda's shoulder. Imelda took a breath, gulped, and stroked Lily's red hair comfortingly. I don't know, Lily, but she'll be alright though. I just know it. Okay, this section coming up is actually a flash forward. I read this and was just confused. I just read it and was just like, what is this? What is going on? But it's written in italics, so it's not in this time zone right now, which I just wanted to clarify before I keep reading, because even I got confused just then. Clearly I haven't read this in a while. Would you do the honour of being his godfather, Padfoot? It would be my greatest pleasure. Two silhouettes were standing in a room full of people. You set him up like a lamb to the slaughter. I did what I had to do, Severus. The voices of Snape and Dumbledore rang clear as bells. Neither can live while the other survives. We must destroy the locket creature. Step aside, you foolish girl! No! Harry! A blinding flash of green light and piercing screams filled her senses, and Imelda woke with a start, drenched in cold sweat and gasping for breath, as though she'd been underwater too long. What was happening to her? Professor Lockheed was determined to be back at work the very next day, and sure enough, she was. What a trooper, because I don't think I'd be back at work that quickly. Like, wow. Everyone was very wary around her, though. Remus reckoned a lot of people had taken you-know-whose advice to heart. If this was so, Lockheed didn't seem to mind. Good morning, Professor Lockheed said cheerily, as the third-year Ravenclaws and Gryffindors filed into her class. Today, she was wearing robes of aquamarine silk with dragonhide boots and necklace to match. Oh, that sounds like such a lovely colour scheme. Oh, I'm just seeing it in my head. I want aquamarine robes and dragonhide boots, but fake dragonhide boots because I would never use real dragonhide. Her eyes were shining like moons as usual, but there was no denying that there was now darkness in them. Are you sure you're all right, Professor? Said Ebony. I've had a lot worse things happen to me, Miss Croft. You're not a true Aura until you've flirted with the slab at least 30 times. Everyone was glad to see her back to her cheerful, wisecracking self, and the lesson commenced as usual. Even Vladimir was there. He looked very pleased to see them, and even managed to smile. Okay, Dumbledore worked his magic, clearly. By the end of the lesson, the class had learned the protection spell Protego, which would come in handy for James for every time Lily shot curses at him in anger. Wow, that escalated. Lockheed kept Sirius, Lily and Imelda behind to speak to them in private. I want to say thank you to all of you. What you did for us was nothing short of wonderful. We're truly grateful to you. Professor Lockheed beamed proudly. Vladimir gave them each a small smile. It was nothing really, Professor. We just didn't want you to get kicked out. You're a really great teacher and a nice person. If anyone deserves to be happy, it's you. Aw, Lily said earnestly. Sirius thought he saw a sparkling tear roll down Lockheed's face. Imelda felt a pair of pearly white eyes staring at her. Ew, that is really creepy. He has white eyes? Wow. It was Vladimir. The look in his eyes was very steady, as though he could see right through her, as if she were one of the resident ghosts. It was slightly unsettling, even more so when he said, "You knew, didn't you? You knew it was going to happen." Imelda's breath caught in her throat. She was afraid he would hate her if she told the truth. Perhaps he would ask her why she hadn't warned anyone. "Knew what?" she replied hastily. Vladimir's eyes narrowed slightly, but he didn't say anything else. Everyone glanced at Imelda nervously, not making eye contact. They seemed to all think it was true. "What did Vlad mean, Imelda?" Lily asked awkwardly as she and Imelda headed for the charms corridor. She knew Imelda was hiding something. It was in her eyes. "I don't know. Vampires are almost as cryptic as centaurs in the wizarding world. No one ever knows what they mean." Lily wasn't satisfied with Imelda's explanation, but she always knew when not to cross the line with Imelda. If she was hiding something from her, she would tell her when she was ready. However, something just didn't feel right, and Lily wasn't sure she'd ever tell her the truth. Imelda was especially peeved after charms. Lily, Sirius, and even James, Remus, and Peter kept on occasionally glancing over at her anxiously, trying to look casual as they did so. "I don't need any of this," she thought to herself. "How could I have known what was going to happen?" At present, Imelda had retreated to the library to study for her upcoming potions exam. She tried her hardest to concentrate, but the nightmares of the night before barged their way to the front of her mind. The flash of blinding green light and the piercing screams of the woman were the most prominent. The woman's voice seemed strangely familiar to her, and she had felt an overwhelming flood of grief when hearing it. It didn't sound like the voice of her mother, nor anyone else she knew, but there was no doubting there was something about it. "Yeah, Imelda, it's your best friend Lily." I mean, her voice couldn't have changed that much in the space of 4 or 5 years, but, you know, she was talking about someone she didn't know. She couldn't see her face, so, you know, it was just voices. I'll give her that. "Hello again, blood traitor. This is becoming a bit of a habit of yours, following me around." Regulus Black was standing over Imelda's chair, jeering. Ugh, God, he's so awful. "Following you?" Imelda replied with a note of bitterness and surprise in her voice. "Why would I be following you? Anyway, what do you want, Black?" Regulus smiled, a wicked-looking smile. "I want to know if my brother dearest told you anything about your freaky little friend." Imelda gave him a cold stare. "Yes, actually he did. I know all about Remus's furry little problem." Regulus looked a little bit surprised when Imelda's reply didn't have the bitter tone he'd anticipated. "And you're still friends with him?" "Serious, I mean." "Yes, Black. Unlike you childish second years, we are beyond all that. Of course I was angry with him, furious in fact, but we're friends. Sort of. And friends forgive each other." Regulus seemed very annoyed by this, and decided to change the subject. "Isn't it marvellous when you're graced with the presence of the Dark Lord himself? I mean, it's a shame it wasn't for recruitment purposes, and that was only his voice, but it was a treasurable memory." Imelda was fuming now. How could he possibly say that when one of the best teachers in the school had been tortured? Marvellous! How can it be marvellous to watch an innocent person being tortured so horrifically just for being in love? She was punished for a reason. It's just not acceptable for someone of our kind to make with filth like that. Think of the reputation of the school. Now that Mother knows about it, she's fuming. She wanted to have us taken out of the school. Creature must be out of his mind with rage, and Father, well, Father. Despite her anger, Imelda thought she recognised one of the names Regulus had mentioned. Sirius had mentioned a house elf, Creature, before, and the same name had been mentioned in her nightmare. Come to think of it, the person speaking at that point had sounded just like Regulus Black. It was Regulus Black. "I'm leaving," she interrupted flatly, and headed out of the library towards Dumbledore's office. Something wasn't right, and she was beginning to feel uneasy about those dreams. Okay, so that is chapter 6 of my Severed Ties Marauders era fanfiction. Like I said, I don't really like this chapter, and from here on out it kind of gets a bit of a mess, but I still wanted to share it. If you did like this chapter though, I'm happy about that. Personally, I just think it was clunky. It was like I was making it up as I was going along, which I was, I'll admit. I was making up all of that as I went along. But the seed of a good idea was probably there. I just didn't know how to execute on it really. But having said that, if you did like this video, please don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. Check out the rest of the playlist so you're all up to date and know exactly what's going on here. And I will see you all next time, my dears. Goodbye.